Hello, and welcome to another episode on the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast. Well, today I am going solo. I don't have any exciting news yet from Emily, but anything could be happening, and I am checking in on her regularly. It's a very exciting time, obviously. But yeah, so I am coming to you solo today. And I thought it would be a really good time to just quickly share what I'm learning about thriving kids. It's a fairly uncertain time, so I thought I would share with you what I've learned about thriving kids and what's happening with NDIS, how it impacts families, how it impacts allied health professionals, and what we can be doing right now to prepare ourselves and to manage the uncertainty that we may be feeling. So, with that being said, let's get stuck in and explore what Thriving Kids is, what it is not, what is happening with NDIS, and what we can be doing now.
We are child development obsessed, business besties, and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist,
And this is the Move.Talk.Thrive podcast.
Hey guys! So, yes, I'm coming solo today. Hopefully only for a few weeks. We'll see how Em goes. Hopefully she's got her feet up. She is resting and nesting, and I thought it would be a really good time. Obviously, there's lots of chatter in the field about thriving kids, NDIS, the changes for families, private practices, and whatnot. I have been deep diving into it over the last couple of weeks, really. And I am part of the NDIS union with Professionals Australia, which has been really helpful. I spoke to Carolyn last week, and hopefully you guys got a lot out of that conversation. And I just thought that this is ever evolving. There's more information coming out all the time. So I just wanted to do a quick episode on my take and how I'm preparing and what I'm doing to manage this time. So first, let's just look at what is going on. So there's obviously a lot of chatter about thriving kids and the future of early intervention alongside the NDIS. So I want to walk you through what it is, what's being proposed and why, what's happening with NDIS, what this means for families and allied health. This is not about creating alarm or hype. It's about understanding the direction and asking the right questions and providing information where we can and support where we can. It's obviously an uncertain time. There is a massive shift underway in terms of early intervention. There are a lot of families and practitioners involved in early intervention. So it's impacting a lot of people and obviously causing stress. So I am not here to cause stress, but I want to provide support and information so that we can start making decisions and taking action. So basically, early intervention demand has grown significantly, as you would have heard. There's a lot of kids, basically, kids were entering the NDIS on early intervention based on having 2 or more areas of development flagging as being delayed or not with milestones. So they were then getting the global developmental delay through their GP and entering early intervention through NDIS. This demand has grown significantly, which has obviously caused a budget issue with the NDIS. So I think there's a couple of things that are probably going on with NDIS. And of course, I I am just talking through my own experience as being a practitioner, a leader in the field, and part of the union. But I think operational pressures. We've obviously seen so many people in the news with fraudulent behavior and operations around NDIS, which is so disappointing and upsetting that it impacts the people that are doing the right things and providing really amazing therapy and support to families. And just the sheer volume is creating that financial stress. So, Thriving Kids is being positioned as a front end early support system, not a replacement for everything else, but I guess an alternative to going on to NDIS. So, at its core, Thriving Kids is a proposed national early supports model for children aged 0 to 8. It focuses on children with developmental delay and or mild to moderate support needs with autism. It is designed to sit outside of the NDIS, but alongside health, education, and community systems. It's not Medicare and it's not individual. It's not an individual funding scheme. So it is being designed to sit alongside Medicare and alongside NDIS. The key design intent is early identification, faster access to supports, less system navigation for family, and support delivered where children live, learn, and play. Thriving Kids is about shifting support earlier before families hit crisis points or need to fight systems. So why is it being brought in? The main drivers were that NDIS was not designed to be an early intervention childhood support system. It was for permanent disability and significant disability. And many children were obviously entering the NDIS through this early intervention. Families were waiting too long to get the support, and the current systems are fragmented, inequitable, and reactive. So the policy intent is to reduce pressures on the NDIS, improve early access without diagnosis being the gatekeeper, strengthen mainstream systems in education, health, and community, and keep the NDIS focused on significant and permanent disability. The intent is not to reduce support, but to change where and when support happens. There's obviously so many questions about it because we are also seeing those people with significant support requirements losing funding on the NDIS. So it's a tricky one. I feel like the intention's really good, but it's logistically, is it going to work? And who's in this shift, who's going to fall behind, and what is the impact of that, I think. So I guess the key points around the NDIS is that it's not supposed to be disappearing. Children with significant and permanent disability will continue to have access to NDIS. The reform focus is on sustainability, appropriate entry, better interfaces with mainstream systems. What's changing in practice is more scrutiny around who enters the scheme, greater emphasis on mainstream supports doing their job, and a clearer expectation that not all developmental support should sit within the NDIS. So NDIS is being pulled back to what it is designed for, while Thriving Kids is being built to hold earlier and broader support. So there's a lot of people having huge reactions to this, obviously. And I think first and foremost, those ones are families. And I think the problem with how this is being rolled out is that there's just not enough information about what it's going to look like. So I just really wish that before we kind of talked about something that was being rolled out, we had a really clear idea of what this is going to look like. There's obviously a bit of a scuffle, for lack of a better term, between the federal and state governments about how this is going to look, who's footing the bill, and logistically how it's going to work. It's creating a lot of uncertainty with families who are really dependent on support. And then it's also creating uncertainty with allied health professions, and then the flow-on effect of educators and schools. I have been talking to a lot of people. No one seems to know what it's going to look like. There's obviously some speculation. We've got a bit of information that we can create speculation around. But even educators are like, how are we supposed to be running this? So there's lots of questions still to be answered, I think. Um, so let's have a look at what we know so far in terms of what thriving kids will actually look like in practice. So I think there's supposed to be multiple entry points. So children don't need one formal pathway. Entry can happen via GPs, parents and carers, early childhood educators and teachers, child health nurses as well, allied health professionals, community settings. There's going to be digital platforms and phone lines for support as well. So there's not one entry point, basically. Then a big part of Thriving Kids is about upskilling the adults around children. So that is going to include parent education, educator capacity building, supported play groups, peer support, practical and accessible resources. So it's about helping adults around the child feel more confident and capable. I'll come back to my thoughts on that in a second. And then the next level is the targeted support. And so this is where allied health is supposed to be fitting in. So it's when a child is flagged at needing more support, they may access targeted supports. These are intended to be time limited, goal focused, and matched to the need of the child, delivered by allied health professionals and early childhood professionals. Delivery may include small groups, coaching models, home-based support, community or hub-based services, sometimes one-on-one where appropriate. And a key clarification is that diagnosis is not required for access. It's not individualized funding, and services are likely to be commissioned or program-based. So a couple of things on and around those points. I guess if we look at universal parenting and educator supports, my questions around that and the conversations that I have been involved in is one, parents with children with complex needs generally have done everything they can and upskilled themselves as much as possible. So I don't think that parents are entering NDIS because they're not informed. I think they're entering NDIS because they are informed and they know that one-on-one therapy is going to and is helping their children. So I think that is interesting because I do think that parents are invested in knowing how to manage their children. There's so many books, courses, programs that parents are doing. So I don't think that this is not already happening. The other thing is how educators, and I also think that educators are upskilling already. I mean, our program at Kids Heart Pilates goes into, like, I very much feel like we are doing a lot of this through NDIS and working with children in a one-on-one capacity or group capacity. So I think, and I guess by doing that, we are obviously talking to a lot of parents and we're talking to a lot of educators as well. I have courses for educators. I go into early learning centers and work with educators. They are upskilling because they are working with kids every day with complex needs. So they are upskilling to understand how to manage these children already. I think where I've got questions around it is how are they going to carry the load of these programs. And then there's a lot of talk around the services commissioned program based or like aligned providers. So how is that happening? How do we become a provider? What can we be doing as allied health professionals to to be part of that support? And some of the concerns around that is that this is going to go to large organizations. Caroline and I spoke about it last week, that this is going to go to large organizations, and it means that parents are not, and schools are not necessarily going to have too much of a choice of the programs available to them, and all that individualized support is going to dry up essentially. So I think the big things that we need to think about in terms of allied health practices as allied health professionals right now is that we're going to have less emphasis on volume of one-on-one support. I also think that the one-on-one support will be with very complex support requirements, children with complex diagnosis, which can be quite a heavy load for allied health professionals. I think we're going to need to upskill around those conditions and presentations around those conditions. So, because I think we're going to have more clients with those higher needs. And then we're going to need to be able to provide supports around programs, group work, parent and educator coaching, and allow for collaboration time. So there's going to need to be more integration with school and early learning settings, but with that caveat that who are the ones being commissioned? Like, what are those approved providers and commissioned providers? And are we going to be able to be those providers? I think is a big question that I've currently got. So I think there is an opportunity for providers that are working in the community and education settings already. But again, it's just that one piece around those approved providers and the commissioned providers. So I think, we need to be having these conversations. We need to be aligning with these people that are going to be choosing programs. And I think we need to start shifting the way that we're communicating our services as well. So what does it mean for families? What families should know is therapy is not disappearing. Hopefully they have pushed Thriving Kids back to an October start from July. There are some concerns over, okay, what's going to happen, because if they're already moving kids or funding away from early intervention now, we've definitely seen and felt that. And then Thriving Kids is not starting, there's going to be a gap. So that's a concern with it being pushed back. And I think, I think the other thing for families is more obviously for those complex children, the people that need those complex supports and higher supports, that NDIS is not or should not be disappearing. They should still be getting funding. We are seeing drops in funding, but hopefully if the early intervention is moved off NDIS, that hopefully that shouldn't be seen, but that, will remain to be seen, I guess. Families will probably be interacting more with educators and community services and parent programs. And some support may look different than what they're currently getting. So I think, yes, there is going to be a shift and a change. And I think families can talk to their current providers, see how they're shifting, see if they're, what other programs they're offering at the moment, where they are, and how they can access them in the case of losing funding, I guess. So the big questions, I guess, in summary of all of that is that how do we ensure that children who really need those supports are going to continue getting the supports? How are we going to manage this shift from NDIS to Thriving Kids when we still don't have a lot of clarity around Thriving Kids and who the providers are going to be? how do we become a provider and how do we set ourselves up for that? And how do we ensure that as smaller clinics and practices, we're not sidelined in this transition? And how do we avoid children, most importantly, between falling between the systems during the transition? I think that's a really big one for me. I think there's a lot of pressure on families and parents at the moment, and the uncertainty adds to that pressure. And there's not a lot of answers. And then they're talking about programs to upskill the parents who are feeling the pressure. So there's definitely still some questions to be answered. I think some things that we're doing at the moment is I'm having lots of conversations. So lots of conversations with other allied health professionals from all disciplines. The places that I'm having those conversations is with the NDIS Union at Professionals Australia. I strongly urge, if you're an allied health professional, to join the union. That is the hub of information for me at the moment. If you want any information about that, if you want to find out more about it, please reach out to me. I'll pop the link in the show notes as well. And yeah, that is a key place for me at the moment in finding out information. There is a group of amazing professionals that are at the forefront of all of the conversations. This is basically going to be the way that we can address this is through politics, I guess. And Carolyn and I spoke about that last week in our previous episode. And I think that is where this union's going to be really effective. It's definitely something that it was a learning curve for me. But if nothing else, it's really a great source of information, and talking to other providers that know and understand or getting the most up-to-date information, I think is what is powerful. And then I know there's some peak bodies that are potentially not being overly helpful at the moment. I think ESSA for exercise physiologists are being pretty good. They were in Parliament last week. I had a meeting with the CEO of ESSA, Katie Linden. She was saying that really important right now is case studies and stories. So stories from families that are losing funding, that is really powerful at the moment. So if we can be, sharing stories of families that are impacted by this, I think that is really important. And also the provider stories as well, what we're seeing on the ground, I think is really important. Collaborating as a group is really important, whether that's within your profession or somewhere like the union. And data is also really important. So getting some case studies. I'm exploring with my work at the moment, just how we can collect data and just show the impact of our programs. I've done a research with the University of Queensland, which should come out in the next 6 months, which is not as fast as I'd like, but where we've looked at the impact of our 10-week program in early learning centres, which will be really exciting to see. I've got another research with the University of Queensland on the qualitative data and outcomes of our program as well from early childhood educators. So I think any data that we can be collating is going to be really important at the moment. And then just getting out there and sharing, liking, interacting with unions, with groups, with other businesses, just so that we can share the word, because we are a really large group of people when we look at providers, families, accessing services, and everyone are linked to those families. So I think when we come together, our voice and concerns can be heard rather than working alone. Yeah, so lots of questions still to be answered, but please reach out if you've got any questions or have any specific points that you want to talk about, or anything that you've heard. If there's anything else that you're experiencing or you've heard or you want to talk about, get in touch. All right, I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.